For a while now, I've been actively looking for ways to hone my skills in Genshin Impact. The numerous videos documenting the struggles I've gone through and the challenges I've completed are proof of that. However, I never really had an opportunity to test my mettle with respect to other exceptional players, to see the heights others had achieved and if I could do the same. Little did I know, I would soon get an opportunity to do so. If you've been watching a lot of off-meta Abyss runs, it's likely that you may have ended up watching ᴬᴜ. He is one of the most goated players in the game, managing to fully starve floor 12 almost every update using a main DPS Amber team he created, along with other creative teams. Several months ago, in mid-February, ᴬᴜ announced that he would be hosting a Genshin tournament, and many a notorious player joined in, including Turtle Camera, a player who has cleared the most recent abysses using only the free characters the game gives, Bote, a frame-perfect god, and many others, including ᴬᴜ himself. There are many players that joined that are better than me that I didn't mention here, but at that point, I might as well list every participant in the tournament. Despite the daunting roster, I also decided to participate. Little did I know how long the tournament would go for and to what extent I would be tested. Before I regale you through the story of my journey through this tournament, I have to explain how the tournament works. The tournament itself was split up into multiple 2-day rounds, each of which had a ban phase and a submission phase. During the ban phase, participants have the chance to vote for characters they do not wish to see used for the rest of the tournament. Up to 3 at most, although this limit was raised to 4 later on. After 12 hours, the votes are then tallied, and the 6 characters that receive the most votes are banned for the rest of the tournament. If multiple characters tie for 6th place, they all end up getting banned. Participants then have 36 hours to submit a run that utilizes whatever remaining characters are left to clear Chamber 1 of 5.4's Spiral Abyss, the first 5.4 Spiral Abyss to be specific, with points being awarded based on how fast they cleared, and this then gets increased by a round multiplier to signify the increasing difficulty with a smaller roster to choose from. Players could only move on to the next round if they managed to produce a run with a clear time of 300 seconds or less. Submissions could only contain up to 3 refinements on 5-star weapons, split across the 2 teams used. No limits were placed on character constellation or artifact quality. There were some other relevant rules that will crop up, but I'll mention them if and when they are necessary. This tournament promoted both horizontal and vertical investment, which is why I felt comfortable participating to begin with. Because high constellation 5 stars were allowed, I was pretty sure that I wasn't able to outright win the tournament and get the top prize. After all, most of my 5 stars are C0, with the few exceptions being Jean, Chi-Chi, and Klee. I did think it was possible to get top 10, but I wanted to do it while representing my main. You see, Traveler was the one character that couldn't be banned. This was listed as an exception during the tournament's inception, and being a Traveler main, I couldn't let this opportunity pass. Not only did I want to get the top 10, I wanted to do it while using every available Traveler element at least once during the course of the tournament, and having Traveler be used in every round. It would be rough, but I thought I could manage. And so, the tournament began. Given that I wanted to use every MC element at least once during the tournament's runtime, the best thing for me to use early on was Hydro MC. Round 1, point multipliers are fairly low, and I could easily make up ground in later rounds by playing well. Additionally, Hydro MC needs really specific supports to deal reasonable damage, 2 of them being Furina and Kazuha, which were likely to get banned early on due to how powerful they are. Out of sheer luck, neither of them were banned during the first ban phase. Round 1 bans included Neuvillette, Malvuika, Arlecchino, Sintlali, and then some odd choices in Amber and Diona. To be fair, there are quite a few Amber mains on ᴬᴜ's server, and some of the best built Dionas were also in the tournament as well, with Diona being known as the challenge remover in the server. These bans were largely troll bans, but nonetheless, it did give me breathing room to do the comp I wanted to use. This was a team I planned on using the first half for round 1. If you watched my Hydro MC video, you'll probably recognize it, since it's the exact same team I used in that video. Kazuha groups up Bloom cores generated via Furina and Baizhu. Furina amps the team's damage by nature of her ult, while Baizhu scales Furina's amp faster with his healing. All of this is to maximize Hydro MC's overall damage by making use of the ult's Bloom core feature. You may have seen this interaction when people were crashing their clients by spawning 100 Shao Lanterns and then using Hydro MC's ult to deal 1 billion damage. While the Lantern interaction was patched, Hydro MC still does the extra AoE damage by hitting Bloom cores. making it so that this team concept still works. And by the way, it still works even as a version 5.6. As for the second half, I was using a fairly standard rational team. It's a comfort pick team for me, and I didn't want to actively stress myself out on both halves in the first round. So here was my round 1 submission. With these two teams, I managed to clock in a sub 160 second run, which I thought was overall decent, but not great. That is, until I saw the times other participants got.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
Yep, you saw correctly. There were participants that managed to get sub 50 second runs. In comparison, my run was nearly dead last out of the pool of participants, coming in 37th place out of 39. A painfully slow start. It was not looking good. While I was still reeling in mild shock from seeing a 50-second run, the second round had begun. Round 2 bans were fairly in line with what I expected, with heavy hitters like Kazuha and Furina banned. I decided to use Anemo MC as the next Traveler variant to tick off my list. In my past experiences with using the rest of the MCs, Anemo MC had the hardest time in dealing damage, enough to be relevant at least. However, with access to several supports that could amp Anemo MC's damage, except for Furina, since she got banned, I figured I might as well cross Anemo off the list early, thinking that I wouldn't use it for the rest of the tournament. While I was most certainly wrong about this assumption,
that's called foreshadowing.
I went through with using Anemo MC along with a Chevrolet Overload team in the second half, managing to get a slightly higher placement with a sub 140 second time. With 2 elements down, I decided to use GOMC for round 3. GOMC is by far my most played Traveler variant, and naturally the one I have the most expertise on. I also needed to reformat my second half team slightly since Raiden was banned this round, and settled on Klee Overload. This is one of the reasons I did a Klee video a few months back, as I needed to get some practice in. Luckily, the bans didn't remove any of the critical units for either of my teams, so I leapt into action. While my GOMC side was fairly clean with a 70-second clear, my second side was quite lacking overall, netting me a sub 160-second clear. Round 4 bans didn't remove any of the characters I had used in the previous round, which meant that I could use round 3 submission for round 4 as well, a rule implemented to allow those with more unique comps a buy if they wanted one. I didn't hesitate to do this, largely due to work I needed to get done and me feeling quite ill at the time. It wasn't a great week for me, I must say. After round 4 submissions were all in, the current scores showed that I was in 26th place overall. Certainly an improvement from the 37th place I had started the tournament with, but not good enough to meet my goal of top 10. In order to get there, I needed a second wind. As the tournament entered its 5th round, many players were struggling to meet the sub 140 second mark, me included based upon my track record. However, I had a couple of ideas for teams that could clear the first half extremely quickly. One of those ideas was Gaming Melt. If I played it well enough, I could clear the first half in less than a minute at the minimum, and it was certainly a good option for me to use. Unfortunately, someone else in the tournament had the same exact idea. Buffy, one of the other participants in the tournament, managed to clear the entire first half in an impressive 35 seconds with their team, resulting in Gaming getting banned in round 5, preventing me from using it. Maybe I shouldn't have used the same submission for round 4. However, this was just one of my options. Frigg is extremely good in the first half, allowing for quick subjugation of the eremites that exist there. Funny enough, this was my best option to clear the first half the fastest since the start of the tournament overall. I've been saving Dendro MC for this exact moment, and I polished my Cleat gameplay up a bit more before I ended up doing my round 5 practice. That was my full submission. I had met my goal of a sub 140 second clear, netting me 11th place for that round, my highest round placement since the start of the tournament. While round 6 bans did weaken the effectiveness of Frigg comps due to an untimely end to Barbara's reign, I still had substitutes in wait to take the place of those that had fallen. As a result, I had also managed to produce a sub 140 second clear the next round, this time using Pyro MC to buff Klee in an Overvape comp and a slightly altered version of Frigg, which ended up being in the top 5 fastest clears that round. I had hit my second win. Through the points gained in these 2 rounds alone, I had propelled myself into 17th place overall. My goal of top 10 was in sight. However, my jubilance wouldn't last long. Producing a fast clear meant that at least some of the characters I used would be banned. And, well, Round 7 bans clearly showed this, as one of the characters I had used for 4 rounds straight, CalmAblaze, was banned. We had truly entered copium territory. With CalmAblaze banned, my options became very limited. Bridge had also been largely gutted with both Kale and Kokomi being axed. I also still had one Traveler element left to use, Electro. Seeing this, I decided on using Ayato Freeze on the first half with a ᴴᴰ comp in the second half. But wait, Tars, wasn't there a Cryo Charge Attack damage bonus on the second half you could have taken advantage of? Yes, I could have. And pretty much everyone that got into the top 10 fastest clears that round did just that.
All around me are familiar faces.
However, ᴴᴰ's poise damage makes dealing consistent damage to the Eremites extremely awkward due to how easily they can be displaced. Other options for the first half were either not well built, or I didn't have enough time to properly experiment with and test. Remember that I only had 36 hours to come up with a semi-working comp, and in reality that's more like 2 hours since I still have to work during all of this. The run I ended up submitting was barely faster than 200 seconds. Though, despite the submission being nearly a minute slower than what I had produced last round, it was still among the top 10 fastest clears this current round. Before round 8 bans came out, I had some spare time to attempt some runs, and so I recorded a sub 200 second run before the ban phase for round 8 ended. It was honestly a really interesting run, as I had used an Angry Yo-Yo team variant for the first half. You might start seeing a pattern with my upload schedule and what I used in this tournament. However, spending the time to do this was a mistake of epic proportions, as 11 characters had somehow been banned. Unfortunately, 3 of the characters I had used during my clear were banned. I was in the VC with ᴴᴰ, the organizer of the tournament, as the bans came out, and he laughed at my expense. I had to come up with something quickly to replace what I had just lost, and I made 2 teams, with one being a main DPS GOMC team, to get a sub 250 second run about 30 minutes after that incident. I potentially could have gone a faster clear, but I had already sunk in way too much time earlier, and I wasn't interested in sinking in more, as I now had to plan ahead for round 9. At this point in the tournament, so many characters have been banned that it was easier to show what could be used rather than what can't be used. Round 9 bans made this all the more clear. At this point in the tournament, these are all the characters we had left at our disposal. Round 9, I settled on an Animo MC team and Dory team, which barely got me into the next round. Looking at what everyone else used, I must have not been invited to the Lyria party, as everyone and their mother abused a Ningguang main DPS on the second half, along with a Kujosara and Kachina, to get the highest single target damage team left at this point.
All around me are familiar faces.
Round 10 swiftly came, and with it another wave of bans. At this point, only 16 characters, including Traveler, were playable. A literal box of scraps. Being 12th place at this point, I had to progress to the next round for there to be any chance for me to reach the top 10. After racking my brains as much as I could, these were the teams I ended up utilizing. Now you may be wondering, Tars, how do you clear Abyss with 2 stars using these teams? Well, actually, you know what? It would just be easier to show you.
这里是我的猎场。热情还不够，听我最强音。不对呀！努力同心，
护持之火，小心着火。
嘿呦，看我的一手交拳，单输第七，焚烧吧！不对呀！
我来守护你，火之盾。
我号令，嘿呀！大显身手时间，食人之法，焚烧吧！不对呀！好，来！
后援登场，小心着火。
努力同心，留下摩拉来！摩登血液绿火引，焚烧吧！燃！快！燃！滚吧！
护持之火，火之盾。
地府坐骑，嘿呀！大显身手时间，单输第七，不对呀！焚烧吧！
我来守护你，小心着火。
听我号令，看我的一手交拳，立好，燃，
后援登场，火之盾。
努力同心，嘿呀！大显身手时间，食人之法。不对呀！焚烧吧！
我来守护你。
地府坐骑，看我的一手交拳，单输第七，滚吧！好，燃！
后援登场，
努力同心，留下摩拉来！大显身手时，绿火引，燃！好，燃！不对呀！
护持之火，看看这个。
地府坐骑，嘿呀！一手交拳，食人之法。
With a nail-biter round 10, I managed to be one of the 7 participants that advanced to round 11. It's a funny coincidence that with what is effectively the last round, the amount of people left is the same as the number of Archons. As for the 7 left, we have Johan, Saffron, Chica, Katast, Turtle Camera, Furu, and myself. Despite making it to round 11, I wasn't actually 7th in the standings overall. No, I was 9th. 2 players, ᴴᴰ and Sufina, had played better than me in previous rounds, resulting in them having higher point totals still. While I had met my initial goal of top 10, I had a new one, top 7. All I needed was a sub 500 second clear to get there. While you couldn't move on to the next round if you got a time that was slower than 300 seconds, you could still get points as long as your clear time was faster than 500 seconds. However, even getting that would prove to be difficult, as more than half the characters left were ones that I didn't use and or no max 4-star constellations. The level 33 Layla and level 1 Charlotte kind of speak for themselves. I was also largely broke at this point. I had been leveling characters and weapons throughout the tournament, causing a massive shortage to any and all resources. Before any attempts could be made, some time had to be dedicated to getting some of my characters up to speed. And, well, I could only do so much. This was pretty much all I could muster. A few attempts in, I realized my best option were these two teams, a Melt Animo MC Offshoot and Chi Physical, against Ruin Guards. With Layla and Charlotte still being relatively underleveled, they wouldn't be able to do much damage on their own and were only really useful for their elemental application, which works in the first half since Animo MC can utilize their cryo towards swirl damage and for Toma to get the occasional melt in. While I really didn't want to, Chi Physical was the only option I had left to fight against the Ruin enemies, which again is extremely miserable as Ruin enemies have high physical resistance. I did have some tools to make this easier on Chi, such as a crowned normal attack talent and a crowned Yunjin burst along with Uraku, but it was still gonna be tough. Regardless, this was my fight to the finish, and so I entered the abyss once more. With round 11 done and dusted, the only character remaining was Traveler. Now you would think that no one would have made it to round 12, but actually, someone did. Furu managed to do it with an extremely impressive submission the previous round. But he didn't want to attempt a solo Traveler run, and rightfully so. It would take an ungodly amount of time to complete a run like that, and require a fairly built Traveler in multiple elements. Guess who has that? Being a Traveler main, it didn't sit right for me that no one would even try to submit a run. And so, on a Friday night, I sealed myself for the final time, with only a lone Traveler to my name.
seen that changing cause it's been so long. Is it you that can summons my Is it just an illusion as it were? Maybe you need for yearning for apple lemon. When I think of the sky, my face is falling heaven harder. It's just one of the strength not to go straight into your arms. If you're more than from the heart and it is flowing, speed again. I have been tasting all this time, never more chances.
随风而去吧。
To explore how much we belong together. I think I know for how you look at me. And nobody you heart, have you been making that on? I pray that all of the
我已经玩腻了。
Sometimes I don't know what to call the feeling inside me, hiding inside. I feel natural for me to be here by your side. Maybe I'm not perfect, that's all true, but I forgot to keep as long as I don't fade into this memory.
消失吧。
There is no time to stand. The stitches isn't. I can offer back to net to know. Curiosity caught to me like a chance to live. I can take it all again. I know I made up my mind for something to do. Took it out on all this to be loose. And I've already for so long. I'm tired of lies and living for the truth. I fall like a double sign that was another upside down. It just felt and cold slowly edging everyone like a hustle can spit it out. Taking me it outside. I should just let it out. The body held on the wall. I'm undefeated. Give me a hug. I'm like myself. I feel it. You're strong. You're going from love to a feel the darkness. I can fly beyond the possible horizon. Forever. Now there's nowhere to run to. I feel it collide. If every second just leave. I knew this time go. So we feel the time to go for eternity. Slowly breaking up the top. This also too big a given time. What you do with a bestie? Maybe if I take a boat, I'll be better time for both. I know that I will become. To be wild.
tournament was truly over at this point. From nearly last place, I managed to climb to 7th, all the while using every Traveler element at least once and using Traveler every round since the tournament's first. One thing I didn't mention now much were prizes. Several top-up rewards were given to those that placed on the podium, and a raffle was held out to give out welkins. While I didn't receive anything, I was pretty satisfied with my overall performance. To be frank, I don't really consider myself an extremely good player, so being able to stay competitive throughout the tournament was something that I would consider an achievement in my books. If you'd like to see all the submissions I made during the tournament, along with a pre-recorded Round 8 run with the Angry Yo-Yo team I mentioned before, there is a link to a playlist containing all of them in the description below. With that, I'd like to thank ᴴᴰ and his server, ᴴᴰ's Teapot, for hosting this tournament and making it a blast. Since I am predicting people will ask about joining his server, it's currently undergoing some reorganization, so it isn't open to join at the moment. I'll update the comment section and description when the reorganization is done. Finally, you might be wondering who managed to bag first place through all of this. Well, you can watch all the round recaps on ᴴᴰ's channel. Please go down there to see the impressive gameplay from each round from all the contestants. Seriously, please do. Editing and casting round footage was not a cakewalk. That said, I hope you enjoyed this video recapping my first tournament experience. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.